over the past week or so, we've gotten some pretty good rains, and after sitting dry really all winter long, my wetland is finally coming back to life, and that's really good. If you know anything about moist soil management or wetland management, you know they've got to have that cycle of being wet for a while, then turn around and being dry for a while, being wet for a while and dry for a while. And so since this thing had been dry for so long, we were starting to get a little population of weeds in here that really aren't good for wildlife. And these weeds are really starting to take over. And what they are these cuckleburrs. And these cuckleburrs, or I used to call them when I was a kid, porcupine eggs, make these little bitty brown burrs. And you know, they're not detrimental to wildlife, they're a native plant, but the problem is these burrs really like the moist soil, and they took all over because we hadn't had a chance to flood it. So what I'm going to do, since we've got a good start on it from the rainfall, and I've got a creek that runs adjacent to this wetland, we're going to pump water out of the creek into the wetland to flood the entire thing. It should take us about a day to pump enough water, but we're going to flood the entire wetland. And what that's going to allow us to do is, once we flood it, these plants can tolerate standing in water for a while, but they can't tolerate standing in water for a long time. So just by the existence of water, it's going to kill a lot of these plants that are coming in here, and it's going to kind of restore our balance of having a wet cycle and a dry cycle for this year. So we're going to introduce water to it, let it stand. It may stand here a month, it may stand here 2 months. I don't know what the future looks like in terms of rainfall, but either way, we're going to let it stand here, and it's going to do its thing. And some of these weeds that have started growing in, it's going to kill them out, and some of these more beneficial weeds like this smart weed, it's going to allow that to come back and provide food for wildlife this fall. So my setup's pretty simple. I've got this culvert crossing on my property on this creek, and so water naturally backs up here. So I've got a water hole in front of me. So from the water hole, I'll pump water through this transfer pump, and this will send it onto the wetland. I don't know how long it's going to take. The wetland's probably a quarter of the way full. I'm guessing to get it all the way full, it's going to take about a day. So we got to start with the first thing, and that's priming the pump. And I'm going to do this by getting 5 gallons of water in a bucket from the creek or from the wetland, and then bringing it over and just filling it up this spot. Now you've got to prime the pump, because even though these pumps are powerful, they can't pull water super high unless you prime them. So when you prime it, all that's going to do is go ahead and put water into the straw, so to speak, and then that way it makes the pump have to work less to pull water up the rest of the way through the straw. So we've checked the oil, we've filled it full of gas, we've primed the pump, and the last step now is just to start the engine and let it start pumping. Now you can see, because it's been standing in water for about a week now, some of these plants are already starting to die, like this wild lettuce.